Acaran Legends, Book 1, The Thief's Tale, read to you by the author, Meena Mason. Preface. Acara made his way across the room in long, graceful strides, heading for two beautifully carved wooden doors which led out onto a massive terrace. He flicked his wrist and, though the doors were several paces ahead of him, they swung open as if his hand had physically pushed them. A blast of crisp air gusted through the opening, smelling faintly of pine and freshly fallen snow. "My lord, what troubles you?" A short, graying man trailed behind, his little legs moving at capacity to catch up. Placing his hands on the snow-laden terrace wall, Ash looked out over the realm. Acara was the largest and most bountiful of the three ruling kingdoms in Nogard. Rolling hills, fertile plains, dense forests, large, deep lakes, and scattered mountain ranges described the general terrain. To the east and west, tall, stony, now snow-covered mountains bordered Acara from the neighboring lands of Renanin and Copperund. A brisk wind sent the snow swirling and whipped the brown, shoulder-length hair that hung loosely beneath Ash's heavy golden crown. His breath escaping in puffs of mist, Ash seemed otherwise immune to the weather, staring out at a world carpeted with snow. Whispers of impending woe and hardship had reached him. Shivering, Ash's graying companion drew his arms around himself in an attempt to ward off the chill. Winter in Acara was brutally cold but brief, blanketing the landscape in thick, white snow for approximately 2 months. He preferred the sunshine and warm temperatures that were prominent during the year. The hot summer lasted 4 months, and the rainy yet comfortable, life-bringing spring only 3 months. Fall was beautiful too, splashing the countryside not only with frequent rainstorms, but also vibrant yellows, oranges, reds, and browns, as trees donned their fall colors in 3-month preparation for winter. Taking a step forward, the short man shoved the snow to one side, grunting when it refused to cooperate. Without looking at him, Ash said, "For 60 years I've ruled this kingdom, Merrick, in peace and prosperity." Merrick nodded, wondering what this was about. History lessons from long ago resurfacing in his mind. The Acara family had governed Acara since its creation, with one short-lived exception, and given their extensive rule had attained something of a mythical status. This status was not undeserved. Athelos Acara, Ash's great-grandfather, was a descendant of the Dragnomaran, an ancient, magical race that had dwindled and fallen into legend. So ancient and sacred was their lore that it was remembered by but a few Acarans. History taught that Athelos was raised in a world brimming with war, brutality, and turmoil. Having survived innumerable horrors, traumas, and difficulties, he'd grown up determined to end suffering and bring peace to the world. Many vied for domination, creating chaos in their wake, but 3 men stood out above all others. These 3 men were unmatched in leadership and military prowess: Athos Acara, Rakend Copperund, and Jace Renanin. Wars became bloodier than ever, and each battle amongst them ended in a stalemate. Athelos, desiring peace above all else, approached these skilled opponents with a compromise. He recommended they cooperate in eradicating the warlords and wayward generals that opposed them, and split the land into 3 kingdoms, granting a realm for each of them to rule in peace. Having similar goals, Jace and Rakend agreed to this arrangement. Once their adversaries were conquered, they founded Acara, Copperund, and Renanin. Taking Acara under his wing, Athelos commissioned a formidable fortress built, and named the surrounding city after his only daughter, Cyrene. He ruled Acara for 100 years, passing rule to his son Arthur, who ruled for another 100 years. Arthur had 7 children, but only 3 survived: 2 daughters, Alina and Aquina, and a son, Luther, whom he passed his crown to. Luther was a capable and wise ruler. In a show of economic genius, he divided the kingdom of Acara into 6 separate regions: Cyrene, Daisyfield, Thera, Tinia, Shimer, and Aquina, 3 of which were named after his deceased siblings. Each region had a lord who regularly consulted with the Acara family, but was responsible for managing minor political, social, and economic affairs. Cyrene was already established as the nation's capital, and Aquina he bequeathed to his sister, its namesake. He gave her the city for 2 chief reasons. Firstly, Aquina, intelligent, resourceful, and organized, had supported him unfailingly, and secondly, she'd already begun cultivating the area long before he'd bequeathed it to her. After Luther's first wife passed away, he married a second woman, Ash's mother. In a tragic turn of events, Luther was murdered in his 50th year of reign, and his only son, Ash, a baby at the time, was hunted. Acara was tossed from tyrant to warlord in conflict and tumult, until Ash reclaimed the throne 22 years later. Merrick had just turned 15, and even then, legend had it that whenever Acara blood ruled, prosperity and peace thrived. Ash's reign had brought the Acaran people exceptional wealth, and a wealthy populace equaled a cultural cornucopia. The Acaran people were famous for their educational system, their knowledge of the trades, and their entertainment. Carpentry, blacksmithing, farming, and engineering were highly refined. Renanin and Copperrund found it increasingly difficult to duplicate Acaran skill, and often sent their tradesmen to study at an Acaran school. And yet, King Luther's murder and the following years of havoc haunted the people of Acara. A nagging worry that those events might reoccur prompted the creation of a dedicated expert military force, the Cyrenian army. The royal family was protected by a select unit of these soldiers, referred to as the Auriot, a sacred promotion which only the elite of the elite obtained. 75-year-old Merrick, his body aging, his face wrinkled, and his hair streaked with gray, looked at his king, a man 7 years his senior and yet appearing to be in his mid-30s. Merrick's brow furrowed. Ash's stiff demeanor and the concern on his face worried him. He'd never seen such consternation on his lord's face in all his years as his personal servant. "Trouble is coming, Merrick. I feel it in my bones. My magic wanes." "These are heavy statements, sire. How can I be of help to you?" Ash pivoted, his eyebrows bowed in thought. "Only one can help me. I must see the oracle." "My liege," Merrick gasped, "all who've sought the oracle have never returned. Surely the oracle is a myth, shrouded in mystery to lead men of weak minds into darkness, despair, death even." "Ha! Merrick, you are—" Ash stopped speaking as he discerned the old man's frail figure trembling from the cold. "Forgive me, old friend. I didn't think." Leading the old man inside, Ash placed him close to the hearth, where a fire was dwindling. Adding a couple of logs to the embers, Ash swerved to face the doors, snapped his fingers, and then touched Merrick's forehead. The doors swung shut, and Merrick jumped at the sound. Smiling, Ash admonished, "Stay still." And once again he placed a hand on his companion's forehead. Warmth flowed inside the old man's body, and the painful quaking subsided. After several years of witnessing his king's magic, it still amazed and startled him at times. It was an unparalleled privilege to be privy to Acara magic. Few knew of magic anymore, and those who did guarded their secret fiercely. "Thank you, sire," Merrick said. "Please don't seek the oracle. You've weathered many things. Whatever—" A large grin on his face, Ash put up his hand. "She exists, Merrick, and I need her help." "Begging your pardon, sire, but many believed as you do, only to be disappointed." "I don't believe.
I know. His eyes widening, Merrick probed, You know? She's my aunt. Ha! Merrick, you should see your face. Ash laughed and then elaborated. She's my mother's sister. After my father's murder, we fled, secretly to her domain. I was raised there among the acolytes. Her ancestors, oracles preceding her, veiled their existence in mystery and myth to protect themselves. You see, many would try to abuse their powers. Concluding his brief explanation, Ash announced, I ride out in an hour. I'll send word to the stables. Merrick bowed, suppressing his desire to know more. Deep concern evident on his withered face, he cautioned, Be most careful, my liege. Acara would be far worse off if her king never returned. A raised pool of reflective water shimmered in the center of the cavern, radiating an eerie green light. Ash stood by the pool, watching it, but seeing nothing. Sensing a presence, he whipped around, hand outstretched, ready for aggression. A hooded figure, one shoulder leaning casually against the wall, arms folded and ankles crossed, shifted slightly. It's about time you noticed me. Ash's hand dropped, a smile hedging his lips. He turned back to the glimmering pool, the light dancing in his eyes. You followed me here? The figure took a step closer to the pool, but not near enough for the glow to illuminate his face. Naturally. I can't let you have all the fun. Ash smirked. He opened his mouth, prepared to respond when a blinding flash of light silenced him. Suddenly and silently the oracle appeared, clothed in a white dress of the finest silk, lined with chiffon. The dress graced her delicate frame, leaving her shoulders bare. She raised her arms, and chiffon sleeves cascaded to her waist. Chiffon was an extremely rare fabric, prepared by the acolytes themselves. Occasionally, the cloth leaked into common markets, but was far beyond what most could afford. The foretold return of King Ash. You know your coming marks the beginning of your end. She spoke softly, lowering her arms as she approached the pool. And yet, my whispers on the wind have brought you hither. She touched his cheek gently, her eyes moving to the hooded figure in the shadows. I'm here. What message do you have for me? Ash asked. Your torment has been born. In 17 years, disruption will come to your reign. Clandestine incarceration will be your due. Nothing must you do to prevent this, for it must come to pass. She looked into the pool and waited until its message was revealed. Acara will suffer until... Her words became so soft that Ash had to strain to hear them. Once her message was complete, she closed her eyes and her trance-like state ceased. That is all. Go now. Rule as you would if you'd not heard this prophecy. Ash stood there, stunned as his mind replayed the message he'd just received. He wanted to ask how exactly he was supposed to do nothing, and if it was so important that he do nothing, why did he need to know in the first place? If the gift of perception was given to anyone, it was certainly awarded to the oracle in spades, but it wasn't much of a leap to ascertain that the king would have difficulty digesting this news. Placing her delicate fingertips against his cheek, she said, This is a message of hope, nephew. I give it so you will be prepared, and also so you will not despair. It will not last forever. My magic? Ash asked, showing his hands in a gesture of vulnerability. The oracle shook her head. Her long, silky locks of jet-black hair swayed with the movement. I can say no more. Dropping his hands, Ash sighed his frustrations. But he wasn't foolish enough to demand that which the oracle wasn't willing to give. Thanking his aunt with a heartfelt hug, Ash declared his intention to visit his mother before leaving. Receiving permission, he departed. His companion went to follow him. The oracle placed her hand on his shoulder, delaying his departure. Difficulty of an unprecedented nature marks your path, young one. But do not stray. Acara needs you. 17 years flew by. The visit with the oracle a faded memory. Unfortunately, fading memory does not change or erase an oracle's prediction. The prosperity, security, and happiness of Acara was not to last. The day after Festival Acara, a day-long celebration that commemorated the legendary sovereignty of the Acara family, there was an unexpected and fierce attack. Cassius, the prince of Renanin, having usurped his father, led an immense army of Renanin soldiers and mercenaries to Acara. The prince's army quickly and easily seized the castle. Due to the previous day's merriment, many of the guards were asleep at the time, and thus unable to defend the castle. After capturing the royal family, Cassius ordered them imprisoned in a secret location, and then murdered the mercenaries who delivered them there. He alone knew the location of their imprisonment. Threatening to assassinate the beloved Acaras, he held the Acaran military at bay and sat on the Acaran throne, crowning himself King Cassius, ruler of Renanin and Acara. When Copperund, a comparatively small arid domain with only a strong military to boast of, received word of the coup, they attempted to help their neighbors. Despite their renowned skill and strength, they were no match for Cassius, his army, and the coerced Acaran force. Copperund ruler and commander General Phileas ordered his troops back. He negotiated a treaty with Cassius, ere Copperund itself be in jeopardy of a takeover. Greedy and cruel, Cassius ruled the land with an iron fist, milking the people of joy and wealth. For all his military genius, he was not a shrewd economist, or didn't care to be, and soon both kingdoms were floundering. The land reflected the state of its people and gradually became stripped of much of its beauty and bereft of resources. As their new king, just shy of 18, was extremely young and impetuous, several of the Acaran lords and merchant barons conspired to wait until he made some sort of mistake, then pounce and depose him. 10 years passed, and yet no one could dethrone Cassius or locate the Acaras. Faith in the return of the royal family and the end of Cassius's tyranny was waning. Though rumors of a prophecy circulated, the people began to despair that no one could or would save them.